I classified this as a bit of narrow AI. So let me try to explain that, because it doesn't seem that narrow. In a sense, it's very general. But the thing about it is it all it can do is learn in this very particular way. It can't do the other things we associate with intelligence. So for example, it couldn't answer a question about a game. It couldn't tell you how chess strategy or Go strategy works, or analyze a move for you, right? Or anything like that. In fact, it can't even, just to illustrate the sort of kind of narrowness, there are many variations of games like chess. Here's a really crazy one. It's playing chess on a hex square board, but there are others that are less far away from the original game. But if you played a human grandmaster in chess on this board, you would expect that they would still beat you. Maybe not as much as they would beat you on a regular board, but you would expect that their knowledge would transfer over, and they'd be able to play this game pretty well because they learned chess in general. Whereas if we took a deep learning chess champion, we wouldn't even have a way of actually having it play this game. Its inputs and outputs wouldn't make sense. It would basically have to start over and learn this game from scratch. So that's a sense in which it's narrow. It doesn't behave like a human intelligence in many ways. It just gets very good, basically through recognizing statistical regularities in inputs and outputs. It gets very good at making certain responses in certain situations. That turns out to be enough to make it a good chess player and a good Go player. But it doesn't give you what we generally mean by general AI. So general AI, we really mean something like what you see in science fiction. So this is a character from a cartoon I used to watch when I was a kid. It's called Rosie the Robotic Maid. And so the idea was, and this was in a cartoon called the Jetsons, which was about what the future would be like. And I think when they said the future, they meant about now. So the notion was we have these maids or servants or whatever in our homes that were machines, but that would talk to us like humans, would be able to see and move and make decisions about what to do, and in general display kind of human-like intelligence. And of course, we see this all over the place. We see this in robots in the movies, and more we see this in movies and TV shows. We're envisioning robots that actually look like humans and are maybe even hard to tell from humans. And this is kind of this is exacerbated by a lot of real-life human experts talking about how AI is getting to the point where it's almost ready to maybe even replace humans. And so what's going on in a funny way is there's a lot of success in narrow AI, and that's leading people to assume that we're just about to solve general AI. That is, we're just, because we're successful with all these specific AI projects, including deep learning, we're ready to build robots that really behave like these science fiction robots and so on. So you might have that impression yourself. That's probably not true. So that's probably extreme. General AI is a sort of harder nut to crack than you might think, based on the success of these narrow AI approaches. Now, some people believe, one thing that exacerbates the sense that we're about to crack general AI is there are these devices now that sort of behave like they're generally intelligent. So there are things like Siri, which seem to talk to you, right? And it's quite a feat to do that. It's quite a feat to, turn your voice into words and to generate words back to you that you can understand and so on. But basically, at the heart of a program like Siri, what's really going on is something very simple. There's a kind of pattern matching approach, which, there's a program in there that's looking for very specific patterns of words, like what is the temperature, for example. And there's a little tiny program for what to do in response, which is to say some words and to maybe substitute some variables in. So if Siri has an internal variable that represents the current temperature that it gets off of connecting to the web or something like that, then it knows to say in response it's temperature degrees right now. So it's not really behaving intelligently. It's just responding to patterns, and sometimes it seems like it's intelligent because it's been programmed to respond to very, very many patterns. But it's basically not doing anything like thinking. Siri is basically a version of something called ELIZA, which is historically a sort of program that was built in AI many decades ago that did this kind of simple pattern matching to sort of make it look like it was talking to human beings.